Good morning. Welcome to the virtual University Transfer Fair presented by Wake Tech Academic Advising. We're so excited to have you join us today for UNC Wilmington's presentation. I have just a few announcements before we start the event. There will be a Q&A portion at the end of the presentation, so you can go ahead and drop your questions in the question box throughout the presentation, and our presenter will be able to answer them at the end. And then please make sure to stay for the entire event. There will be a survey posted in the chat box at the end of the event, and we ask that you complete the survey for a chance to win a $50 Visa gift card. Now I'm going to go ahead and introduce our presenter, Sydney Mazuka from UNC Wilmington. You can take it away, Sydney.
Great, thanks Amanda, and welcome everyone to Wake Tech's Virtual College Fair. Like Amanda said, my name is Sydney Mazuka, and I'm actually the Transfer Student Success Coordinator for UNCW. So I'm extremely excited to be here virtually, even though I do miss our in-person events. But today I'm going to briefly just discuss a little bit about Wilmington, North Carolina, and of course UNCW. And then I will go through the transfer application process, and then of course open the floor to any questions. And I hope by the end of the presentation you will understand why UNCW is like no other. So to give you an idea of some numbers, UNCW at a glance, we have just over 18,000 students, with roughly 14,000 of those students being undergraduate students, which is where, of course, our transfer students start. We do have 58 baccalaureate level degrees, 35 master's degrees, and 4 doctoral degrees to choose from. I'll highlight just a few of those, of course, today in our presentation. But to show you just a breakdown, so one big thing we love to brag about at UNCW is that we have been ranked among the top 100 public national universities by US News and World Report, and we're actually only one of 3 in the UNC system schools to hold that honor, which is incredible. Another thing I love to highlight on this page is that we have a 49% transfer welcome rate. What that means is roughly 50% of our incoming undergraduate students are actually transfer students. So last fall we brought in over 2,000 transfer students, so that's a big part of our population. Another thing, as you can see, we are extremely military friendly, so we have over 2,000 military affiliated students and are typically named best for vet colleges, and that is something that we definitely are close proximity to a lot of bases in North Carolina, so of course ties in really well. So looking at academics real quickly, we do have opportunities within 4 separate colleges. So our College of Health and Human Services, a lot of students from, that concludes nursing, exercise science, College of Arts and Sciences, Cameron School of Business, and then Watson College of Education. Now, within all of those colleges, we do have an average class size of 27 and then an 18:1 student to faculty ratio. So it is a way to keep those class sizes smaller, so you really are able to get to know your professors, build those relationships, which is extremely important. So you kind of get a smaller school feel despite being a mid-sized institution. Now, once you join the Seahawk family, there is an option to be a distance education student. Now, keep in mind, if you're looking to be distance education, to check different schools just to make sure your program's online. So for us, the only online options for undergrad programs are listed. So you've got clinical research, criminology, elementary ed, middle grades, and then international studies. Then we do have our online accelerated programs, RN to BSN, and respiratory therapy, and that's something I would highly recommend reaching out to myself to get some more information on how those programs work. And then we do have an Onslow extension program that is online, but requires that you live in Onslow County. So if that's an option, that would be a great program for you. But those top 4 or 5 are only ones completed completely online. So definitely keep that in mind if you're looking at different schools, to always check if you need to be online, that your program is offered online. Now, going beyond the classroom, this is something that the University of North Carolina Wilmington definitely brags about, is that we have what you call high impact learning experiences. Really what that is every single program integrates some sort of internship, co-op, or some sort of project at the end. So it's a really great way to have hands-on experience before graduating, which of course is great for your resume. So kind of looking at this next slide, our accomplish rate is actually 91% for all of our majors combined. So what that that means is 91% of our students have a job or are going to grad school within 6 months of graduating. So that's kind of ties in really well. So we have that opportunity for you to get involved in your desired field of interest and career goals before even graduating to really help you succeed in not just school, but then continuing on into the workforce. Now, campus life, we actually have 19 Division I sports teams. Students don't even realize that. The cool thing about campus itself is that all of our major fields and athletic facilities are actually on main campus, which is super convenient. Everything's right there. And then we have 60 sports clubs, including club teams and then intramurals. So club teams are typically like JV level of college, and intramurals are UNCW students against other UNCW students. Now, as far as student clubs and organizations, we have over 300 just on campus, but I will highlight that Wilmington does a great job at having organizations that aren't necessarily on campus that students are very much affiliated with. Now, college and culture, this is something extremely important to UNCW. So we find that this is something that we continue to push and strive all students of all identities to get involved in. So we have 65 plus multicultural student organizations. Some of my favorite is our Centro Hispano Club. They do phenomenal work. Our LGBTQIA Club, and then even an African American upperclassmen club that does a really great job specifically for transfer students, since you're typically coming in as upperclassmen. Now, loving where you live. This is something that I let transfer students know. UNCW has some incredible transfer on-campus living options, so it is not required, it is optional. However, our transfer on-campus options are going to be very much apartment style. So you're not going to be in a traditional dorm room, you're going to definitely be in your own room with your own bathroom or shared bathroom. Now, it's not required, but this is something if you wanted more additional information, we can always look at it with you or point you in the right direction when it comes to housing, because of course if you're at Wake Tech, you're in the Wake County area, so that would be a big move. So being on campus is definitely helpful. Now, Wilmington, I said I would talk a little bit about Wilmington. So UNCW is actually the only coastal institution in the state of North Carolina. Of course, located near the beach, so we're only 5 miles from Wrightsville Beach, 20 minutes from Carolina and a couple of other beaches, but it's definitely more than just that. So our historic riverfront downtown is phenomenal. There's a brand new amphitheater there, and then Wilmington itself is extremely rich in the digital arts and film industry. So if that's something that you're interested in, our film program is really well known. And then we even have a 15-mile cross-city trail, which is phenomenal. And then coffee shops, just the local options. Now I'm going to go ahead, transition into the admissions process, touch on some key things about financial aid. So quickly, I would like to highlight our Pathways to Excellence program. So this is our co-admission program that we have with 46 community colleges, specifically Wake Tech. And so it is a guaranteed program if you are completing an Associate of Arts, Science, or Engineering with a cumulative GPA of a 2.5. If you're meeting that criteria, you would be eligible. All you have to do is complete a short intent form saying you're interested in the program, and this will guarantee you admission when you apply. It'll also go ahead and waive your $80 application fee waiver once you fill out an application. It will give you access to myself, so that would be pre-advising or any assistance with that. And then it also will give you priority consideration for our transfer merit-based scholarships. So those are just a few things. We did pre-COVID try to do events. So looking forward, we're actually going to host some different events during our open houses for students within this program. So definitely something if you're interested in UNCW to take a look at. Now, as far as transfer admissions goes, when you apply, we do require an official high school transcript and then any post-secondary transcripts. So if you've attended somewhere besides Wake Tech, we will need Wake Tech transcripts and any other transcripts from colleges or universities you've attended, and then of course military transcripts if that's applicable. Now, our recommended minimum criteria is going to be 24 completed or in progress hours. We recommend 6 hours of transferable English and then 3 college level hours of math, and then a cumulative GPA of a 2.5. Keep in mind, we don't admit by major, so that does not guarantee you admission into your desired program. So I would be a great resource for you if you were interested in knowing a little bit more about the requirements for your program, just to kind of help smooth out that transition. Now, our application deadlines for summer and fall are always going to be March 1st. So if it's this year, next year, applying by March 1st is recommended, and then spring entry would be October 15th each year. So we are rolling admissions. So once we receive all your documents, it's about a 4 to 6 week turnover rate, just depending on kind of the influx of applications during that time period. Now, as far as financial aid goes, this is something that is a little different if you are currently using it at Wake Tech. So going from a 2-year to a 4-year, there are some differences, and we actually do assign you a financial aid counselor once you're admitted. So this is extremely helpful, and we even allow walk-ins, and we have virtual walk-in hours even still if you're a prospective student. So if this is something you wanted to start getting answers about, please reach out to me and I can point you in the direction of someone that can help explain the process a little bit more. So of course, we all know October 1st is that FAFSA opens up every single year. For us, our priority deadline is January 1st, but we will review all the way until June 1st. So no stress if you're thinking you still want to apply for fall, you still have time to go ahead and complete your application, and then of course still submit FAFSA and add our code up there as well. Now, as far as UNCW scholarships, I did mention our merit-based scholarships. Those are something that you will be automatically considered for if you apply by our priority deadline, which is March 1st. And then our separate scholarships, those will be anything from need-based, still merit-based, department-specific, military, and those you'll have access to once you're admitted and may require additional documents. And of course, I'm more than happy to discuss that process as well. So lastly, I would just encourage you to stay connected to me. I'm a great resource for you. I am at Wake Tech most Mondays and Tuesdays, so my email and my phone number are listed, and I would be more than happy to do any type of pre-advising, admission-related questions, you name it. So I'm here for you. And then lastly, we are this Thursday hosting a Seahawks Connect virtual event. So if you are interested, our Cameron School of Business will be there, College of Arts, Health and Human Services, Career Center, and even financial aid to discuss just a little bit more details regarding those few things that I mentioned. So thank you so much again, and I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen and open the floor to any questions anyone has.
Thank you so much, Sydney. That was all great information. All right, we're opening up the Q&A. Please go ahead and add your questions into that. You'll just type them into the Q&A box, and we will have our advisor, Mike, will go ahead and read those off for Sydney.
Okay, the first question is, what is the competitive GPA to have for admissions, and the minimum GPA requirement for the institution?
Yeah, absolutely. So the minimum cumulative, like I mentioned, was a 2.5. I always kind of go through our most popular programs. So Cameron School of Business does require a minimum 2.7, and then nursing has about an average 3.8. So I always recommend at least a 3.5 to 3.7 range, but it is going to be different based on major. But as long as you have a 2.5, you're okay to get into UNCW. So some students still transfer, and if they needed to kind of boost their GPA, they have a semester or two wiggle room that should be okay. So 2.5, as long as you're meeting that, you are accepted into the university if you have the other criteria as well.
Okay, so our next question is, can you clarify if the high school transcript is required for a student with more than 24 transfer hours?
Absolutely. So UNCW, we actually do require it for a couple of reasons. So we fall back on it for MCR. So we typically always like to record for auditing purposes that a student is or is not meeting MCR. And then we also require it for auditing for our foreign language requirement. So UNCW does require foreign language to graduate, and it is based off of that student's high school foreign language. So even if it was more than 7 years ago, we're looking to see kind of what that foreign language was. So it is a requirement for us. which is a good question. So no matter if a student has or does not have the 24 hours, we require it.
Okay. Next question is, when is the best time to apply?
Absolutely. The earliest, the better. So by the priority deadline is suggested. So if we do fill up on our certain number that we're trying to reach, then we typically will move students to the next semester. So for fall, if we've reached a certain capacity, we will sometimes move students to the following semester, like spring. So I always say at least by the March 1st deadline for fall or October 15th for spring, but the sooner the better. So as soon as that application opens on August 1st, you can go ahead and apply for fall, spring, or summer terms.
Are SAT and ACT scores required to be submitted in admissions?
They are not. So no matter what, pre-COVID and now, transfer students are not required to send test scores. Great question.
Okay, and if I have a transcript from a different school with a lower GPA, will you honor the new GPA, or do you just average both GPAs together?
Yes, so if it is transferable work, we will go ahead and combine GPAs. If a student, though, has completed their associate's degree that is at Wake Tech, then we actually will typically just take that bottom line of the program GPA total. So if you complete your associate's degree, that can help if you have some work prior that was not as good as maybe your associate's degree GPA. So that's something to keep in mind. But if you don't have your associate's degree, we go ahead and combine all transferable work to get a total GPA. So we do recalculate. So if it's not transferable, that's something to keep in mind. It doesn't hurt you. So if it's something that is maybe part of an AAS degree that doesn't transfer, we will actually go ahead and recalculate for only transferable work.
Before you mention the foreign language requirement, what are some of the different ways a student can satisfy that requirement?
Absolutely. So foreign language, it must be taken it can be taken at Wake Tech or at UNCW. So that would be if you have taken let's say Spanish in high school, and then we're going to take Spanish at Wake Tech or UNCW, then you need to do 3 levels. If you wanted to do a different foreign language, you only need to complete 2 levels. So that would be like the 111 and 112, I believe, at Wake Tech. There are some different ways too. So I know if there are placement tests, and you are able to pass those and receive the credits, let's say you're already bilingual, that is an option. Just keep in mind, we actually will require students to retake that placement test at UNCW just to get the credit that way, but that's totally an option as well.
Do you have any advice to help an applicant stand out? What things are most important to highlight in the application?
Yeah, I think I definitely always encourage just meeting the minimum requirements is the most important. Our essay is optional, but it always does look great to just include some information on why you're interested in UNCW, because that's a great thing to fall back on if a student is missing maybe an English or a math level. That's something that I think a lot of times is missing that could be helpful. So meeting the minimum requirements, you're automatically accepted into UNCW, but maybe if you're not, always consider what other information can you provide me that might help make your application a little bit more kind of giving me more information besides just those numbers. So as long as the student meets the minimum criteria, they're okay, but that essay is optional, but I always say don't skip it. Go ahead, give me just a few words or sentences about why you want to transfer to UNCW.
Okay, and do you recommend completing the associate degree over transferring with the minimum 24 to 30 credits?
Absolutely. So yeah, I actually do. So I was a transfer student myself and only completed 1 year, which I did the full 2. So completing your associate's degree, because we have the agreement with the state of North Carolina, it will actually waive all of your general education requirements. Besides, there's like 1 or 2, so like foreign language is one of them, health PE if you don't have above a 3.0, and then we have a global diversity requirement. So that's a big perk right there. It wouldn't, of course, waive any prerequisites, but then that's going to save you money as long as you maximize your time here at Wake Tech by completing and following our degree plans. You're going to be in great hands. So I would highly recommend completing the associate's degree. So average student comes in with about 41 credits for us. So highly recommend completing your associate's degree, and doing the Pathways to Excellence program is helpful because we will typically send you the degree plan for your program right away. If your Wake Tech advisor hasn't already shown you that, I know they do a great job anyway, but that's something that would be super helpful, is just follow that plan, complete the associate's degree. Saves you a lot of time and money, I think.
And could you describe student activities or student life for transfers, and do transfers usually live on campus? And then also, if you could highlight any specific clubs and organizations for transfer students.
Absolutely. So yeah, transfer students, as far as campus goes, campus life is just phenomenal because we do have a lot of students that live on campus. We actually have a live-on requirement for 2 years for under our first-year students. So students are on campus all the time. As far as transfer students go, it is, I believe, about 50-50. So 50% of our transfer students choose to live on campus, and then there's some great off-campus, right behind campus options. So that's a great option because I know a lot of transfer students will work part-time. As far as transfer specific clubs and organizations go, there's not too many. So we do have a transition office that has a specific counselor for transfer students to help kind of smooth that transition. But I always highly recommend, if you have any sort of interest, to just get involved in at least 1 or 2 clubs once you transfer, because that's extremely important to build relationships with people interested in the same thing as you. So that's something that I highly recommend transfer students do if you can. I know a lot of my transfer students do work as well, so it can be a lot to juggle, but that's extremely important, I think, to be involved in any sort of campus activities. We do big events for just about every holiday. We do a really cool Thanksgiving event in the dining halls that all students are invited to. So there's a lot of great things always going on campus.
Great, thank you so much, Sydney. I am going to go ahead and put the survey link in the chat box while we wait for some more questions from students. Sydney, would you mind also putting your contact information in the Q&A, the announcement tab? That way students, if they do think of questions later, they can still reach out to you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And students, please go ahead and continue to ask questions, and we will continue to ask those as we get those in. Thank you, Sydney. As we wait for a couple more questions, can you speak a little more about the Pathways to Excellence and the benefits of joining that program for our students who might not be as familiar?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest benefits is really, I think, the fact that you're going to get linked up as soon and as quickly as possible with myself, and just we do email reminders to that specific Pathways to Excellence group. We do recommend students complete that within the first semester or year at Wake Tech, just to kind of reap the benefits a little bit more. But specifically, I had mentioned it will waive that $80 application fee, so save $80 right there. And then we will give you the priority review for our merit-based scholarships. So there's a $3,000 and a $5,000 option there. So that's also a big deal. So we tag your account, and we actually review all of those students tagged first for those merit-based scholarships. So we're looking for at least over a 3.0 for both, but those are some really big benefits. And then, of course, being connected to me as soon as possible so I can help you with pre-advising for your specific major, because I'm even more than happy if I don't know all the answers. I have connections in every college and I'm able to reach out and get the answers you need for maybe your specific program. So if you're looking at nursing, what are the greatest options for you, or business? And so we can really help smooth that process and that transition out even more. So I think that's a great perk within that program. And then of course the guaranteed admission. So if you maintain that 2.5, even if you're missing math or missing the English, we will grant you that admission with the 2.5 and the associate's degree. So that's something to consider as well, is just that guaranteed admission and the partnership with you all.
Great, thank you. I think it's a great program for our students as well. So always trying to share that if they're interested in UNCW.
Absolutely.
We did just get another question. A student asked, what kind of programs does UNCW offer for education majors?
Absolutely. So education, we do have birth through kindergarten, then we've got elementary, which is K through 6, then we have middle grades, we do have a special education program, and then we even have secondary education, which is a little bit different with us. You can typically do just secondary education as its own degree and choose your specialty. So a lot of students will do like English or a science, or you can even flip secondary education and do your program of interest. So maybe chemistry, and then combine it with our secondary education minor, which gives you the licensure to teach in the high school. So we kind of have that flexibility there. So we do have really birth through kindergarten all the way through secondary ed. And I think I had those listed. So the elementary and middle grades are offered online. However, I will mention this. I've actually met with a couple of Wake Tech students. We are not partnered with the entire state of North Carolina. So obviously all of your classes would be online, but we actually are not partnered with Wake County. So you would have to be able to commute or travel into at least Johnston County, and I think there's another bordering county. So as long as you're able to commute into those counties for like your practicum and teaching hours, that's completely okay. It's just something that we just don't have partnership with the whole state. So that's a good thing to kind of let students know.
Can you talk a little more about the housing that UNCW offers?
Yes, absolutely. So for housing for transfer students, it is going to be on or off campus. If you are a transfer student on campus, then it will automatically be placed in one of our 3 apartment complexes. So those are going to be, I think, anywhere from 2 to 4 bedrooms, and then they're going to be individual bathroom or shared bathroom. So those are going to be automatically where you're placed as a transfer student. Unless you really want to live in the hall-style dorm, then you absolutely can request that. But we typically put transfer students with other transfer students and upperclassmen. So those are kind of the options for transfers. And then as far as off-campus goes, we do have a really helpful office for that, as well as a link called Perch, I believe. And so that could help you explore off-campus housing if you're not too familiar with Wilmington. And I'm always happy to share that as well.
And then we have a student asking if UNC offers a computer science program.
We do. So we do have computer science, and we actually have a brand new program. I think it's one of a kind in the state right now. It's a cybersecurity program. Extremely interesting. And then we have our informatics technology program as well. So those kind of 3 all fall within computer science in my mind. So cybersecurity being really popular, I think that's especially been anything computer science related has blown up just with everyone going virtual. So yes, we do offer computer science, informatics technology, something like that, and then cybersecurity.
Great, thank you, Sydney. We'll give students a couple more minutes to ask any questions. Is there anything else you want to share with us before the end of the event today?
I don't think so, but thank you guys so much for having me and putting this on, and hopefully next fall we'll be in person.
Yes, I agree. Hopefully. All right, we'll leave it open for a couple more minutes. We did have some students in our last session who asked questions kind of toward the very, very end. So we'll just give a couple more minutes for any questions that might roll in, and then if no more, we'll end the event. And students, just a reminder, don't forget to do that survey. That link is in the announcement Q&A box. There is a chance to win a $50 gift card by completing that survey. You'll be randomly selected and contacted via email. And then please be aware that this event is 2 days, so we will have some schools presenting throughout the day today as well as tomorrow. So please feel free to join those presentations as well. All right, it looks like all questions have been answered. No new questions are coming in. So I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today, Sydney, and for any attendees out there. We are so excited to have you all, and we will now end the live event.
Great. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Amanda.